Hello and welcome to Pet Pals, the show that features the animals of Frederick County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center. I'm Sean Snyder, filling in for Bethany Davidson this week, and with me is Tammy, our typical animal wrangler, and with Tammy is Fifi. Now you don't need to adjust your set. She is not a poodle. She is a pit bull terrier mix. She's 2 to 3 years old, and she has a beautiful coat. Nothing like I've seen before. We're categorizing it as blue merle, or it almost looks a little bit dapple, something like a Great Dane would have. She arrived at the shelter as a stray, and she came in on the 16th, and since that time no one stopped by to reclaim her or to see if she is their dog. She came in from the Thurmont area, so if you're watching the show from that area, you recognize her, please let her owner know that she is here at the shelter waiting to be picked up. When she came in, it appears she hasn't been spayed, so if she does go through the adoption process, that always includes being spayed or neutered. It includes vaccinations, a microchip, so if she does become a stray again, we'll easily be able to return her. And all that is typically $92.50 for adult dogs. So in Fifi's short time since she's been here, we found that she is a lovely dog. She is calm and relaxed for 2 years old. 2 to 3 years old, I'm sorry. She walks fairly well on a leash. She doesn't engage the other dogs when she's coming out of her kennel past the other dogs. And she just seems like a really nice love bug of a dog. So we would think someone's out there missing her, but if no one would come forward, someone's going to have a nice dog that they can acclimate to their family. Of course, we always encourage people to continue training, not necessarily on special tricks, but just to make sure your dog has good manners, leash walking, keeping paws down. And then being 2 to 3, she will need some exercise. So if you're a person who likes to come home and sit on the couch and just wants a dog that's going to sit on your lap, she will do that, but she will also need some time outside to release some energy and play time. So if you've been interested in a big pit bull terrier, she weighs in at 68 pounds. This might be the right girl that would fit your family. Our next guest is Oakley, and those of you that watch the show may recognize Oakley. He's a familiar face here at the shelter. He is a 6-year-old German Shepherd mix, and when I say 6 years old, I don't want you to think he's ready for retirement. He is still all go, all ready to play. So he is an active dog that likes to play, run, have a good time. So if you're a person that likes to go for walks or go to parks and play at the dog parks, things like that, he might be a great companion for you. Now, he may not be a great companion for you if you have small pets in your house. Oakley does have a high prey drive, which is not his fault. It's part of his breed, but he would not do well with cats, potentially smaller dogs, rabbits, guinea pigs, hamsters, or any of those kinds of things. So being a German Shepherd, he is very intelligent. So Oakley is somewhat trained now, as you can see as Tammy runs him through some tricks. But at the same time, he could learn so much more, and he is a working dog. So if you know anything about shepherds, they are typically on patrol. They are always seeing what's going on. When they're in the house, they will lay down, but then they'll get up and check the perimeter and walk around. And that's what Oakley's going to do. So, you know, he's going to be a dog that is going to be active in your house. He's going to have to know what's going on at all times. And then at the same time, kind of like Fifi, he is going to need daily exercise and some kind of mind stimulation for him. So since Oakley's 6 years old, he does benefit here at the shelter from getting a discount of $20 off his adoption fee. But then if you remember, January, we're also doing the Black Never Goes Out of Style promotion. So you would get another $20 off his adoption fee. So he could go home for $52.50. We're really trying to find a family for Oakley. He has now gone on over 120 days being here at the shelter. So his length of stay is becoming quite long. And for an active breed like him, he really needs to get into a family and a daily routine. So if you're up to the challenge of Oakley, great dog. Just do a little research on shepherds. You'll have a great pet if you're willing to take him home. Our next dog is Drago. He is a 1 to 2 year old pit bull mix, And yes, he is another dog that has been on the show a few times. And what we try and do at times, we'll have dogs at the shelter or cats that seem to just stay here for a very long time. And right now, he's fitting into that category. He's been with us over 135 days. His intake date was September 10th of 2018. For young, active dogs, cats, it can be hard for them to stay here. So by highlighting him, we just hope that we can find the right family out there for him. He falls into that category too of, we're not quite sure why no one's picking him. At times, people can't have pit bulls because of where they live. We know that. But when we talk to volunteers on our staff, Drago is a dog that walks well on a leash. Is fairly well mannered. He could use a little brushing up on some of them, but overall for a 1 to 2 year old dog, his manners are decent. He likes people. He enjoys being with people. And when you walk by his kennel, he's not necessarily one of the dogs that's barking and jumping and just acting somewhat crazy like some of the dogs do, just vying for attention to go out. So sometimes it's a mystery to us, and I always encourage people, if you're interested in getting a pet here at the shelter and you're having a hard time picking, ask to speak to a kennel tech or a volunteer. But the kennel techs are the ones that handle these dogs, cats, animals day in, day out. They know the most about them, so they can give you some background. Especially on a dog like Drago, he was turned in by someone, but that person that turned him in wasn't really his owner. His owner somewhat abandoned him and left him with another person. So we don't have a lot of history about him. So it's really helpful when you have first count experience from our staff or volunteers that you can make a good decision for yourself, obviously, but also the animals here. Everyone knows this. Our goal is that when he gets adopted, we never see him again. So, you know, it's one, unless you bring him back for a visit. But at times it doesn't work out, so we try and set people up for success. So we want to share everything we know about an animal before they're adopted. You can see he enjoys toys, so something, if you were to adopt him, you'd want to make sure you have a good arsenal of toys for him. And I should say they would need to be sturdy toys. They wouldn't necessarily be the soft, squeaky type or the kind with the cotton fill, because he would likely shred them and then possibly eat the stuff inside. So if you're looking for a dog that you can hang out with, but also go out back and play ball, take for long walks, Drago might be the perfect match for you. Our next canine friend is Marley. He is a 1-year-old black-mouthed cur mix. So a lot of people aren't too familiar with the breed, so I thought I'd tell you a little bit about the black-mouthed cur. It is relatively a southern breed where it's most predominant. States such as Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, Florida. They typically live around 12 to 18 years, and they are very social dogs, so they love human companionship. They were originally used for herding, hunting, and just as all-around working dogs, and they're known to be very sturdy dogs. So because they are active dogs, it is usually recommended that if someone has one, they have the room to let them run or exercise them properly. And then the last thing I want to share is it encourages people who own black-mouthed curs not to expect them just to lay on the couch or to be able to leave them alone for long periods of time. Because they are so social and bond so closely with their human friends, they will get somewhat depressed or suffer anxiety if they're not getting enough human companionship. So that's a little background about black-mouthed curs. Like I said, we've seen a few here at the shelter, but at the same time, it's not a very common breed that we get here at Frederick County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center. So a little bit more about Marley. So Marley arrived here as a stray. He came here on January 10th. And it looks like he was picked up on Harlan Way in Frederick. So obviously no one's come forward, so we made him available for adoption. So he'll make a great dog for someone who has an active lifestyle, maybe a good running partner or something like that. And he's like most of our dogs. He is young, he's active, he is looking for someone to teach him things, but at the same time, he also needs someone to take him out and play with him and run with him and so on and so forth. Might be a great dog for someone who has kids that can, kids or children can take him out back and play with him, run him around, everything else. So if you're interested in a big, great dog, his name is Marley. He's weighing in right now at 72 pounds. He's here at Frederick County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center. Our last dog of the show is Thor. He is a 2-year-old Pit Bull Terrier mix. And once again, like a couple of the other dogs that we had, he may be a familiar face to you. Thor's going on about 70 days here at the shelter, and in my opinion, he is one of those dogs that gets overlooked too. When you're an employee here at the shelter, you want to see homes for all the animals that come through the door, but over his time here, Thor has become one of my favorite dogs just because of him being well-mannered. He's social. He is very gentle when he comes out of the kennel or if you're putting his harness on him. He does great with other dogs in the shelter. He often is one that our canine enrichment team will use to parallel walk or socialize with other dogs. He just has a really great personality and a great temperament. He has also benefited from some outings. The canine enrichment group that I mentioned, they actually take dogs out on the town, if you will. You may see them walking around downtown Frederick or Baker Park. They take them to Home Depot and places like that just to get the dogs a different perspective than the shelter, but then also possible exposure to an adopter or something like that, just to show that these are just normal dogs out on the town, that there's nothing special, dangerous, or they're not wanted because they're here at the shelter. So Thor was brought to the shelter just by circumstance. It wasn't his fault by any means. Where he was living, his owner had 2 pit bulls, and what they told us was that they were not allowed to have 2 pit bulls where they were living. Now, I don't know if it was because of his breed and his dog friend's breed, or if they just weren't allowed to have 2 dogs. So they chose to give Thor up, and basically he's been here ever since. So, you know, if you're looking for a young dog that you can play with, hang out with, but also he'll lay down and sit beside you on the couch if you want to relax. He's going to be a great match for you. What we hope to find him is that right mix of a home that he can have enough playtime, but then also just relaxing. We do have a restriction on him with younger kids, and he hasn't ever become dangerous or mean or anything like that. When we processed him, and that's when we move an animal to the floor, he did not like being restrained, which a lot of animals don't like being restrained, and we are just somewhat fearful if a young kid tried to hug him too hard, if it was a strange kid, that he may not like that, or he may show some signs, growl, or those kinds of incidences. So basically, he'd do well for most families. We're looking for a family that has kids 8 and up. That's a look at 5 dogs here at Frederick County Animal Control and Pet Adoption. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at 5 cats that are available for adoption here at the shelter.
Hola, bonjour. Thinking about learning a foreign language? How about taking a few business courses online? Or you might just want to relax by flipping through a magazine on your mobile device. Good news! Frederick County Public Library rolled out 3 new great digital tools to help you learn the convenient way. First is Rosetta Stone, the premier language learning program with invaluable tools to help you master any one of 30 languages. Lynda.com offers all kinds of online business and tech courses to take in the comfort of your own home. And these can help you achieve your own personal and professional goals. And Flipster offers 15 popular digital magazines such as People, Time Magazine, that you can read on your mobile device and even download the app, which makes it a super easy and fast way to enjoy these magazines. 3 exciting new digital tools offered to you by Frederick County Public Libraries. They're all free, and you need only your library card to get started. Visit fcpl.org for more.
Did you know a person can have colorectal cancer and yet have no symptoms? Symptoms of colorectal cancer may include bleeding, blood in the stool, abdominal pain or mass, and changes in bowel movements. Ask your doctor if you should be screened for colorectal cancer. Call the Frederick County Health Department at 301-600-3888 3362 for more information or for free colorectal cancer screening for eligible individuals.
Welcome back. Our first cat of the episode is named Cotton. And as you can see, he is a domestic long-haired cat with a beautiful coat. He is so soft, and he is a big guy. Sometimes with cats that have long hair, it's deceptive. They're not really as big as they appear, but he is truly big too. He weighs in at about 12.5 pounds. So he's a large fella and very nice and social. When I went back to get him out of his cage, he willingly went into his carrier that I brought him up here in. When I opened the door, he came forward to greet me. So he's a really nice cat. Now, full disclosure, Cotton is part of a duo. He does have a friend living with him, and we are asking that they be adopted together. Typically, we showcase both animals on the show, but the cat that he's living with is named Cheyenne, and she had a dental done yesterday. Her teeth were not in the best of shape, and she is still somewhat sore and recovering from that. And she is also a domestic long hair, and she is more dilute calico, or dilute tortoiseshell, I'm sorry, in coloring. So I just didn't want anybody to rush in and try and adopt just Cotton. They are part of a bonded pair that we're trying to find a home together. So the two of them came to us because their owner was not able to care for them anymore because of medical issues with them, not the cats. And there was a temporary caregiver that couldn't keep the two cats for some reason, so they ended up coming here to the shelter. If you've ever been if you've ever owned a longer hair cat, or you're interested, you should know that you will have to do some grooming for them, especially as they get older. That will require brushing. And Tammy noted that Cotton does have a few mats under his chin, and it's always better to take care of those things when they first start, rather when they get too large, and then at times they need to be cut out. Cotton is 6 years old. I don't think I said that. His friend Cheyenne is somewhere around 8 to 10 years old, so she's a little bit older. But all in all, both cats are great. Cotton is a little bit more social than what Cheyenne. Not that Cheyenne's unfriendly. She's just more shy and reserved with new situations. I'm sure, like a lot of cats, once she got into a new home, felt comfortable with her new environment and her new people, that she would settle in just fine. So it's nice, it will be nice for her to have a cat like Cotton, who is more confident and outgoing and just laid back and relaxed. So if you've always wanted a beautiful white hair cat with long hair, Cotton may be the right pick for you, but then he also has a friend named Cheyenne that is also just as lovely. Our next cat is Becky. She is a 9-month-old domestic short hair, and there is a possibility she may have been on the show before. She was actually what we call a return to shelter. So someone adopted her, they didn't work out, which I'll talk about here in a moment, and then they brought her back to us. So she could have been on the show as a kitten. It looks like her original arrival date was sometime back in May of 2018. So because she was here before, a lot of the stuff has already been done for her, such as being spayed and microchipped, so on and so forth. So if someone were interested in adopting her, it'd be a fairly quick turnaround because there's not a lot to do on our end. As far as her coming back to us, her owner indicated that they didn't keep her because she was scratching up the carpet at the house. Now, what we would hope people would do is maybe talk to us about issues they're having before they just bring an animal back. It is hard for animals to kind of have that revolving door where they're at the shelter, they go to a home, they come back to the shelter, they're in a home, and it's really hard for animals to have consistency. There's a great new initiative that's being introduced here at the shelter. It's called Project Hope, and it is actually being managed by our auxiliary group, Focus. And what Project Hope hopes to do is let people make wise decisions if turning animals into the shelter is right for them. So they have information on trying to solve problems you may be having with your animals, or they may have other solutions than using the shelter, or if they feel that it is right for you to turn your pet into the shelter, that is something they will tell you to do. So it's almost like another avenue people will have to make a good decision, what's best for them, of course, but also the pet. And once again, that's run by Focus. Focus has a website. It's ffocas.org, and you can find Project Hope on there if you're thinking you may have to rehome your animal. So Becky is still a juvenile cat. She is going to be playful, so she may want to play at 2 a.m. and run around and things like that. But she will become just like any other adult cat, most other adult cats, I should say, and want to lay around more, so on and so forth. So if you're looking for a cat that's not an adult but not a kitten anymore, she's going to be a great pick for you. Our next handsome guy is Banks. He's a 3 to 4 year old domestic short hair cat, and he is here at the shelter looking for his next home. He arrived at the shelter as a stray from the Brunswick area, and when he came in on December 22nd, we held him for his stray period, and after that, he was so friendly we moved him to the adoption floor on December 27th. So he's been available now for almost a month for adoption. He does qualify for that discount during the month of January. So once again, the promotion is black never goes out of style. And during the month of January, if you adopt an animal that's black or white, tortoiseshell if they're a cat, or brindle if they're a dog, your adoption fee will be reduced for by $20. So when he arrived at the shelter as a stray, we have a procedure we go through to try and find a microchip, or if there's a collar on to make sure there's no information on the collar. And going through that process, he didn't have any kind of identifier that would let us get him back home. So obviously we didn't have a way to find his owner, but that's something that we always look for as part of our procedures here. We will be having a microchip clinic in March. The date of that clinic is March 24th, and you can actually come to the shelter, get your pet microchipped. It costs $15. It's between 11 and 2, and you can also get your rabies vaccination if your animal would need a rabies vaccination. The thing about Banks is when you handle him, you know he was someone's cat. He is very social, very friendly. When I went back to get him out of his cage, he was right at the front waiting for me to pet him. His coat is in good shape. He has a soft coat. He doesn't have much dandruff for being a black cat, and it's a good quality coat. Sometimes when we see animals that have eaten poorer quality food, their coat, that'll show in their coat. It won't be as shiny. They'll have a lot more dandruff, so on and so forth. And then the other thing that leads you to believe he was well cared for is he weighs 12 pounds. He hasn't missed many meals. So he's a big cat, but he's really friendly. Along with dark colored cats in general, whether they're black, tortoiseshell, some of the darker tabbies, when you visit the shelter, make sure you look in all the cages. Sometimes cats will be in a bed or they'll be behind something, and sometimes you may miss the perfect cat if you don't look close enough. Or, like I said before earlier in this segment, if you want help, we're more than happy to give you a hand looking for your next pet. Our next cat is Marilyn. She's a 7-month-old domestic shorthair, brown tabby with white. Now Marilyn has been on our adoption floor since August. So if you quickly do the math, she was put on our adoption floor when she was 3 to 4 months old, which is that cute age that everybody wants typically when they come in to adopt. And it makes you wonder why she wasn't chosen as a cat to go home with some family. And I will say she isn't your typical kitten in that she's not necessarily right at the front of her cage begging for your attention. I've heard many times over my years here at the shelter that I picked my cat, I picked my kitten because it reached out for me. And she is a cat that does need a little more reassuring than what some other cats may. So, we hope that we can find the right match for her here at the shelter. And if it takes a while to find that perfect family, she's worth the wait. So when I went back to get Marilyn, I did have to go in she's in a larger cage here at the shelter. We have one when you first walk in that I can actually stand in. And she's in that, and I actually had to go in and coax her out. And then when we first put her on Tammy's lap, she was a little bit hesitant, a little fearful, but in the last minute or two, she has really settled in, and Tammy commented right before we started shooting that she began to purr. So I think it's just finding that right person willing to give her a chance. She's not going to be the cat when you visit her that she's going to come right to the front of the cage and greet you and want to be on your lap or play with your hand or any of those kind of things. She's going to be the cat that you may have to sit there for a minute or two and let her approach you. But once that trust is earned, she'll make a great cat for someone. So she arrived at the shelter with 2 of her siblings. They did benefit from our foster care program. They grew up for a short while in one of the homes, our foster homes, but they didn't come with their mom. And sometimes, you know, having mom, always having mom can be a great benefit to a kitten. And I think sometimes moms teach kittens the socialization ropes, things like that. So they somewhat didn't have that. Her 2 siblings were somewhat shy as well. They've since been adopted, so now she is the only one out of the 3 still looking for a home. So she's about 7 months old. She's a young juvenile, I'd say. So she's still going to want to play and be active, but she will need a little patience, and she may never be that cat that if you have company over that's going to greet your company and want to be with them. She may be a little more reserved around people she doesn't know. So if you're interested in a young cat, her name is Marilyn. She's a beautiful brown tabby. She's looking for her next home. Our last cat of the episode is Dauber. He's a 6-year-old domestic shorthair, and he is orange tabby in color. And it appears he wants to do a little exploration around the room rather than being held by Tammy. He was brought in with a friend, and that friend, we assessed them as not being bonded, meaning that they could live a life without each other and they would be emotionally happy and they'd do fine. So they have been split up, and his friend was actually already taken by a cat rescue and will be adopted through their rescue. So when his owners originally took him, both the cats were taken in as barn cats, and the person who relinquished Dauber to us told us that he kept trying to get in the house and that they were supposed to be barn cats. So obviously he has an affinity for living inside rather than outside. And you know, for the cats that we adopt from our facility, that's our goal, that you'll keep them inside. Working here, or just the folks that work here in general, see a lot of bad things that happen to cats outside. Now, we do know that cats are outside and that, you know, some don't necessarily have owners, that they're just loosely taken care of. But at the same time, when you adopt a cat from us, our preference is that you keep it inside all the time. That way it can't be harmed by other animals, get hit by a car, or potentially contract some kind of disease that could be fatal to it. So Dauber here is a big cat. He weighs in at 14.5 pounds. So if you're a person that loves that big, beefy cat, that's Dauber. He's your guy. You can see maybe why he was selected as a barn cat. Right now, he's not loving being restrained. He was very friendly when I went and got him, but he may be a cat that would prefer to be pet rather than be restrained, or sit on your lap on his terms rather than you forcing him to be on the lap. When you adopt him, pretty much everything he'll need for the first year of his life is included, neutered, routine vaccinations are given, such as rabies, feline distemper, microchip. You get a wellness visit at your vet. Most vets in Frederick County participate in that program. And then a lot of people aren't aware, but if you're a watcher of this show, you are. Cats are supposed to have a license just like a dog. So your adoption fee of he's 6 years old, of $77.50 would include your annual cat license as well. So if you're interested in a big orange tabby cat, I know a lot of people that really go for the orange tabbies. He's going to be a great guy. Take a little time to settle in, but I think once he gets into the routine, you're going to have a cat that just wants to stay in your house and be your friend. So that's our show for the week. We looked at 10 animals here, 5 cats, 5 dogs. If you're interested in seeing any of those animals, we always encourage you to come down. It's great to watch the show, but the best thing you can do is come down, meet the animals in person. We're here 6 days a week for people to visit, Monday through Saturday. All you have to do is drive to the shelter, stop at the front desk and sign in, and then you are more than welcome to go back and look at the animals that we have available for adoption. Thanks for watching.